She said, I think it's going to be really great out there for you because of 9/11. Yeah.
Welcome to Famous Cast Words. I'm Lynn Marie Rosenberg. I am here today at the home of actor and activist Tala Ashe. You might know Tala from the DC Comics television show Legends of Tomorrow, or from the recent Atlantic Theater Company production of English. You might not know Tala from the 2007 Safe Sex PSA for MTV.
Real high point.
Real high point in a career. Thank you for joining me today.
So happy to have you here.
We're so happy to be in your gorgeous, gorgeous home. There's much to get into, but I do want to hear about this PSA for MTV that you shot many years ago.
I'm sorry to say the audition process was multiple people making out with each other in a room with the casting director and the client. Yeah. It was, needless to say, non-union, but it was a job.
Oh, yeah.
And in those early days, I needed a job.
You just recently finished doing many years of one show, one very special show, Legends of Tomorrow. I wonder, for anyone who maybe hasn't seen it, if you could just tell us the sort of basic premise of who you played and what the show was.
Yeah, we were these like D-list superheroes that were like, you know, trying to do good in the world. And my character was originally from the future and joined this group and was, you know, very sardonic and unhappy about it. And then integrated into the team. And then, follow me here, we changed to the future, which was where I was from. So my whole being changed, and I came back as a different version of myself, as though I had lived a different future.
Like you do.
That's so confusing.
No.
There's no good way to explain it.
Well, that's why I was like, I'm gonna put this on you and see what happens.
And it was time traveling. I forgot the most important part. We time traveled.
Yes.
We time traveled, so we got to go into different costumes. It was really a pretty wonderful time.
Mark Guggenheim, who was one of the creators of the show, part of the reason he created the character that you played, Zari, is that he had a Muslim American family member.
Yeah, I believe it was his sister-in-law.
His sister-in-law, who had mentioned, like, there's just no representation in my life.
Yeah, and this was 2017, so this was during the Trump presidency and during the Muslim ban. So it was a really timely moment to introduce a character like this. So it was really special in terms of that. I had never experienced anything like that.
There's a word I've heard you use many times when talking about representation, and I think Zari, your character, really gets at it, which is nuance. I wonder if you could talk a bit about how important nuance is in representation.
Speaking to my community, which is the Middle Eastern, you know, North African, South Asian, sometimes we call it Mina or Manasa community, we're sort of, I wouldn't say we're at our infancy, but we're at an earlier stage in terms of like American representation. I would say, you know, 40, 50 years ago, you just didn't even see anything from the Middle Eastern community.
That's right.
After 9/11, as we all know, there were a lot of depictions of, you know, terrorists and terrorist-adjacent people on television. I remember I was graduating college, and a teacher said to me, and I want to say, I think it was like very well-meaning.
Sure.
But there was this class right before we graduated where she was sort of like, I think you might, in the real world, you would be cast as like this, this, and this. And when it got to me, and I should say I believe I was the only person of color in my class, which is, you know, not that long ago.
Not that long ago,
She said, I think it's going to be really great out there for you because of 9/11. Yeah. Which, yeah, I've actually thought about a lot, you know, in the subsequent years, because I think she was coming, it was totally coming from a...
You're being very kind.
Good, but like uninformed place, you know? But the reality when I went into the world was like, sure, there was some representation of Middle Eastern characters, but really problematic And even like early in my career, I did a soap opera where I played an Iraqi refugee. And I still, I mean, I try to be kind to myself about it because I was very young and, took a job thinking with my best intentions that I would be able to influence what the journey of that character was. Very quickly found that they were not interested in, my thoughts or feelings about it. And there were so many stereotypes, so many problematic things. That what was excellent about it was that I sort of vowed from then on. I was like, never again.
Yeah.
Like, it's not worth it. Even though I got the experience, it just was so soul-crushing that in some ways it shaped like all my decision-making going forward, which I think when you're a minority artist, sometimes your greatest power is in saying no. Right. And I've said no a lot, and I've had to say no.
Yeah.
Because there have been so many problematic things. It's changing.
Yeah.
We have a long way to go, but we're seeing less terrorist things. And now I think, to answer your long-winded way to get to your question about nuance, I feel like sort of in that spectrum, in that journey of representation, like first it's something really, really problematic, and then it's like, well, let's just make them all like good.
Yeah.
They're all just, let's just like,
Hardworking,
like sort of meek. I feel like we're still actually in that moment where it's improved, but I'm still seeing a lot of sort of victim porn, you know, about these parts of the world where we're like, we feel really bad for them and they have like really bad things happening to them. And what does that lack? Nuance.
Right.
Like, these are human beings. They are living their lives. They are much more like you and I and, us. And in nuance, you get universality, you get humanity. I don't know why we're doing art if we're not trying to get to that. Come here, little man.
Take it and go away.
I like the back and forth.
I don't understand.
You got salmon on your face, dude. Best segment we've ever shot. I want to talk a bit about how representation functions in Legends of Tomorrow in a really sort of fun way, in that you cross genres, you go through time, you are seen in many different time periods. I wonder if you thought at all about the way representation functions just by getting to be a nuanced human who appears in many different places, many different costumes, many different sets.
Yeah, I have a friend who is a dramaturg who always talks about the actor body and like what that story tells. And I think she's sometimes talking about it in terms of like double casting, like in King Lear, if you have like Cordelia and the Fool in the same actor body, you're telling a story.
Right.
And I think in the same way in Legends, like to see my body in, let's say, Elizabethan clothes is interesting.
Yes.
And it's like, these are the things that, if you're in just like generalize in the middle of the country, like maybe you've never seen a Middle Eastern person, but you certainly haven't seen one wearing something that is familiar to you.
That's right.
And there's something a little revolutionary in that.
I think so too, yeah.
And then sometimes you can actually make interesting commentary because we're going through time and you have, the hindsight of history. Like, for instance, at some point, my character went back to the Salem witch trials.
That's right.
And so there were parallels between that persecution. So you see that, again, I think what was really special about Legends is that it gave you a different perspective through casting, through the characters, and through the lens of history.
Now we're going to look at some breakdowns. As a reminder, breakdowns are little bits of text used to help agents and actors figure out if they are right for a character. Tala, where you are Iranian American, I thought we would look at breakdowns that come up when you search specifically the word Iranian. Now, to preface this, I have to say the results that came up from a search just of the last 5 years are not necessarily offensive per se.
Okay.
But I think you will agree they are problematically one-noted. Let's say non-nuanced.
Yeah, that's the theme.
That's the theme. Perhaps not surprisingly, a huge percentage of breakdowns are concerned with your accent and language abilities, with a varying degree of excellence.
Here we go. All right. Seeking an actor fluent in Farsi. Seeking a native Farsi speaker. Speaks perfect Farsi.
Perfect. I don't think I've
I'll tell you what's wrong with it.
straight out of the gate.
Let me just start here. It's the Persian language. Okay. So it would be like, this would be akin to saying like, seeking an actor fluent in Espanol. That's what you're saying.
Right.
Like that's, Farsi is what you say when you're speaking Persian.
Right.
But this is wrong. But like, if we're gonna be technical,
That's right.
this is wrong. And to me says, you probably don't know what you're asking for.
Good. We're off to a great start.
Yeah.
Though some projects don't feel quite so beholden to authenticity.
Looking for actors who can portray Iranian-born and Iranian-American characters. Actors can come from anywhere in the world.
JK.
Anywhere.
There is one word that comes up more often than any other. Oh yeah, do you want to guess? It's not bad necessarily, it's just one note.
Exotic.
That I would say is bad.
Oh, she's a traditional Iranian mother, wears traditional clothes, a traditional elderly woman, a deeply traditional Persian father, the ideal child in her traditional Iranian father's eyes.
The number of times that word.
I mean,
Are you feeling
that to me is a dog whistle.
Yeah.
Like, that to me is saying like, really religious, really Muslim, if I had to put a religion on it.
Right.
Conservative, like closed-minded. Like
Yep.
this to me is about like reinforcing tropes of like immigrant people, immigrant parents. I'm seeing a lot of parents here trying to show the like culture gap between,
Yeah.
problematic.
Yeah, I mean, I think the
Problematic.
word traditional is the negative space dog whistle of non-assimilated, right?
Yes, and doesn't get these zany American ways.
That's right.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Traditional.
Anyone looking for work as an Iranian man should prepare themselves for a certain emotional skill set.
A cold-hearted Iranian businessman, a cruel and philandering husband. Cruel, stoic, and stern with an expression that demands authority. Firm and authoritative, his demeanor is stoic and at times dictatorial.
Yeah, toss that dictatorial in there. You want to talk about a dog whistle.
They're like, so you're Saddam Hussein.
Yeah.
And
Picture it.
Like, picture a father.
That's right.
Just sprinkle some stoic in there.
But ultimately, there is a great dearth of Iranian roles. Even expanding to the words Middle Eastern, in the last 5 years in the New York market, the search returns approximately 470 results, compared with 1,075 for the word Caucasian. When you enter Iranian specifically, you come back with about 30.
Oh boy.
3 of which were from the play you were just in 2022. 10%. So to make up for your lack of nuanced and varied representation as Iranian, I thought we'd close out with just a few of the things any woman, Iranian or otherwise, gets to enjoy reading in the business.
Oh boy, deep breath. Bonnie, early 30s. Really, really beautiful. Bonnie spit 2 kids out and didn't break a sweat. I'm so offended for Bonnie. I think Bonnie would disagree.
She's spitting kids out. I don't know what you have to worry about.
That's just a male fantasy. All right, number 2, lady. She doesn't got a name, but she's a main character. Lady, main character. Female, mid-20s to early 30s. Very funny, but not funny looking, Lynn. No, we're not in the business of funny looking. And oh boy, finally, Jeff's girlfriend. What's her name? We'll never know.
She gets an apostrophe. She doesn't need a name.
She's female, any ethnicity, any, and she's in her 20s. This has no lines. Of course, Jeff's girlfriend doesn't have lines. Jeff's girlfriend doesn't have a name.
Yeah.
Poor gal.
What we really like to do with this show is ruin people's days.
make you a star? Do you want to be on television?
Yeah.
Are you an athlete? Is that the boom? Oh, no.
You did a play recently at the Atlantic Theater Company called English. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that play.
English is about a TOEFL class. TOEFL is the test you have to take in order to, it's an English test. So if you are outside of America and you want to come to any university in an English-speaking, I should say, English-speaking country, you have to pass the TOEFL in order to prove you can speak English. So that was the premise for the play. They're just students in this class. There's a teacher, and these 4 students. And the way the play functions, which I think is, I've never seen prior to this, when we're speaking English, we're speaking accented English. So as though an Iranian is speaking English, so they are trying to speak English, right? So it's hard, right?
Yeah.
But then when I'm speaking Persian in the play, I'm speaking like this.
Yeah.
So what it did really ingeniously, I thought, is that it took away that distance, I think, that can sometimes happen with subtitles or with accents actually on stage, where, you know, the audience kind of feels like, oh, again, like, look at those people, those poor people, and like, oh, you don't feel a part of it. But when I'm talking like this, it kind of like glitches your brain where you're like, oh, wait, she's actually speaking her mother tongue.
Right.
I'm hearing it as English, but it's actually Persian.
Right.
And what was so cool about it is that in sort of the sliding doors version of my life, I thought so much about, oh wow, if I hadn't left Iran as a 9-month-old and I'd stayed in Iran, like, this could be me.
Right.
This could actually be me. So I was like sort of inhabiting, it was a trippy, like very emotional, profound experience to step into that version of myself. It's kind of not unlike Zaria.
I was just going to say, there's a real time travel aspect to that as well.
Like, if you're given circumstances that are different, like, who are you?
Yeah.
And of course, I thought about my parents and like asked them a lot of questions about like their journey of learning English and how difficult of a language actually English is. And that feeling of like not being able to express yourself fully. Like, I actually feel this when I try to speak Persian now. Like, I don't have the vocabulary. I understand, I can get by, but I don't have like a true fluency of like articulating my deepest thoughts and my like soul. And language and soul, I think, are so interconnected. And my character in English was saying like, I don't like English. I'm not me in English. And I think the play just had such an interesting meditation on our relationship, our body's relationship to language. I thought it was just a brilliant play. It was so meaningful to be part of it.
We're going to take a little break now. We're going to explore your special skills.
Oh, brace yourself. Yeah.
So at the bottom of every actor's resume, there is a section called special skills, and that is all of an actor's sort of talents and different abilities. So today, for our special skills, what are you going to show me, Tala?
Well, I just want to say, sometimes in the special skills section, one does tend to exaggerate.
Are you saying that what's about to happen is not going to be?
It feels important to preface by saying that I'm not an expert in plants, which is what we're gonna do. We're gonna take some propagated plants.
Just keep talking. I just want to slip my hand into this.
We're gonna plant those propagated cuttings, which I got from my father, who's quite a green thumb. We are going to get our propagated plants right over here. Follow me, Lynn. You can see, like, this one has some nice roots, very nice roots. This probably should have gone in soil weeks ago, but it's going today. So if you can just put that on a little towel there. And I'm gonna add these. I'm gonna plant these little guys with some nice roots. This is very nature channel.
They're a little creepy, right?
you.
It's not just me.
Well, you know. Keep you at this.
Beautiful. Thank you.
If you wanna just put a little bit of soil.
Okay.
I'm just gonna help you first.
It's my little guy.
More.
Okay. Give me a minute. Give me a second. Micromanaging my soil implantation.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. Let me let you. Okay, stop. All right. Now, if you want, you can either with your finger or with the spoon. We need a little indentation.
Should I look at you deep in the eyes while I do this?
Too far, Lynn. Too far.
And then
Just sort of smush it in there.
push it in. This is
technical term.
very technical. Oh, I planted a thing.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So now we want to just give it a little bit of support, and so we'll add now.
You're pretty.
Do you want
and
help?
You, your emotions matter, and
That's good. That helps.
I want to check in on you occasionally. That's the kind of support I need. So.
This is
Hey, dude.
hi guy. Going with the big guns.
Oh, yeah.
Here.
You're a professional. You get to use the trowel. I think you need a little bit more.
You do. You know what? You're right.
Which one are you leaning
I
towards?
think I'm gonna do this very intense.
That's right. You want the one that you said should have been planted
Yeah.
already.
This one's look. It's like that shouldn't be there. This means it's just growing in the water.
And that's a bad thing.
You wanna? Oh, you're doing great. Like just a gentle patting on this. I felt like you just instinctually did the patting in.
I do have plants in my house. They are made of Legos. They're succulents made of Legos.
Well, here's the thing about having plants too. It's a real reminder that sometimes things fail. Right. And you just have to pick yourself up and move on.
I'm gonna be honest.
It's lovely.
It looks great.
So now we're gonna give them a little bit of H2O.
Yes.
Just a little pour.
This is a lot.
I know, but you gotta spray your plants.
So am I going in on a spray or a pour right
You're going in on a gentle pour.
Gentle pour. This is where, oh God. This is where it could all go wrong.
That's great. You're
Is
doing
it?
great.
It's kind of like my French press, only no coffee will come
Exactly, it's less delicious. And then we're gonna do a little bit of plant food because thoughts and prayers are not enough.
There is something about like the watering a thing, the caring for a thing outside of yourself that does
it's
feel.
it's simple, but I find it to be a calming activity.
Yeah.
So you can't rush nature.
Right.
It's going to do what it's going to do. So I find that quite a good metaphor.
Yeah, I like
For
that.
when things seem hard, inevitably.
Like the many years of living on this planet.
Yeah. Look at our, we'll just look at our cute plants. Introduce them to their little friends here.
We're decorating now.
Wow, Lynn, nailed it.
Did I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lovely.
I was worried maybe it wasn't right. Oh, look at that. That's it. That's special skills. In Legends, the legends have sort of screwed up time, right? And they're going back and they're fixing their mistakes. And then Zari, your character, comes in and says, what if we could actually make the future better? Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about that in terms of the advocacy and activism I've been watching you do on social media in terms of using your celebrity, using your reach to bring awareness to what is happening in Iran right now. And I wonder if you've thought at all about connections between playing this activist and now sort of stepping into this activist role.
That's a really good question. That's actually really perceptive. I hadn't, I mean, in a conscious way. But, I think we sort of, every time we play a character, we take a little bit of that with us, whether we want to or not.
Absolutely.
For better or worse, but for better in this case. I care chronically.
Yeah, what a lovely way of putting that, yeah.
Yeah, I sometimes wish I didn't care so much, but I do care very, very much about everything and anything that I'm sort of involved in, and that I think I might be able to have a little bit of impact towards improving. I was born in Iran, but my parents really are Iranian. They lived 20-some years, almost 30 years of their lives in Iran. The reality is that as their child, I hold that for them in a different way, obviously, than they are. But I think I perceived it as a burden for a long time, and now I see it as a responsibility and something that I need to step up to and meet. And I think in my fantasy mind, I of course want to sort of write the future, you know, and what's been happening in Iran for the last 43 years, but even prior to that, you know, has been a really complex and difficult history where people have suffered at the hands of governments, first under the Shah and now under the Islamic Republic of Iran. And my ancestors have experienced that, and I experience it. You know, it's in my body somehow. It's in my blood. So the least I can do is advocate for them and try to spread their message and to keep their stories in the public eye as best I can. But yeah, it's a really emotional and tricky thing that I'm always trying to think about how I can be more helpful with, you know.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
What a
This has
delight.
been so fun in this absolutely beautiful, snowy wonderland we find ourselves
I
in.
called this in for you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Take care of each other and be professional.